don't know if you should do this. And quite frankly, that was the same voice in my head too. I felt guilty that this was wrong. But this was about getting to know me. And it meant taking a risk. So I snapped some photographs. That you see here, just to tell you how shady I am, these are my parents' addresses, or my home addresses. And also, later on down in the line of questioning, I asked, sneakily, what were my parents' birth dates? And they were like, lie. And I said, fortune telling. I want an accurate fortune. And you know, they believe me. So as you probably, for the people that have read the post piece, I took that information and I ran with it, and I didn't have a plan. I just took a risk. And a few of my friends and I, we randomly got on a train to a part of Korea that was mentioned in my file. I went to the police station and I said, you gotta help me, here's the information. And it's interesting, when I say take a risk, you have to take risks, right? But the reality is, too, on the flip side, people have taken risks on you to get you where you are today. Lesson number 2.1, 2A, whatever. So you need to remember that people have taken risks on you to get you where you are today, and you need to return the favor and take a risk for other people or for yourself. So I was arguing at the police station, help me. And I was doing Konglish. I was like, help me. 제발, please. The woman finally broke down. I don't know what did it, but she broke down. She says she went to her computer. It's always these damn computers. And she pulled up the information. And in less than 3 hours, I was standing face to face with my mom. And an older sister I never knew of. So, take a risk. My mom would kill me if she knew I was using this one. This is my mom. She did not show up dressed like this. She showed up to the police station, and I spent like 2.5 extra weeks with her and my family. And I learned throughout that period that my mom took a lot of risks with me. She wasn't even sure if she was going to come to the police station. I also found out that she was keeping me as a secret from the rest of my family. And in Korea, other babies aren't looked too highly upon in family structures. She took a lot of risks. When I was spending time with her, I ended up coming out to her. We were arguing over the dumbest thing too when it happened. We were arguing about my brother. I have a younger brother, and he said that he was going to come and meet me for like cake and coffee at that, whatever. And he ended up playing video games. And I was so mad. I was like, I was there for 4 hours! My mom pulled me aside and said, you know, I want to talk to you about something else. There seems to be something that you're not telling me, and I want you to know that this is your home. You're your family. I want you to be safe and feel loved. What's on your heart? This went back and forth with a translator. I had a friend with me that was translating at the time. We ended up going back and forth for a good half an hour. I was afraid because as the conversation progressed, my mom knew things about me that I probably didn't even pick up on or wouldn't have picked up on. When I found my mom, we went back to the hotel I was staying at, I hid everything. I hid all my damn heels, my skirts and my dresses, my bags, everything, my makeup. I hid it and I stored it at the hotel because I wasn't ready to come out to my mom yet as trans. So when I met my mom, I looked fairly like a boy. A cute boy. But I hadn't come out to her, and I had made that decision because it was selfish. I wanted to get to know her, and it was a split decision. So my mom pulled me aside. We were having this intense conversation, and finally, I just agreed to take another risk. And I come out to her. And I said, and my friend's like, well, how do you want me to translate this for you? And I said, no. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this on my own terms. I am going to say this in Korean myself. And so I did. I said, Mom, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl. I'm transgender. My face went down. And I think for many of us in this room that have had coming out experiences, you know what I'm talking about or can relate. My face went down. It got super red, that ugly red color, and I started bawling. Because for me, at that moment was game over, done, time to pack your bags and go home. She's gonna kick you out of your life. Surprisingly again, she took another risk and said, I'm new. I was surprised. I was like, how could you know such a thing? I mean, how could you know? And her rationale is, and I still don't fully know if I believe this, she said something about a birth dream. So pregnant moms have these birth dreams apparently that can tell names and genders of kids, and apparently her birth dream I came up as like having no gender. And she's like, yeah, I kind of knew. You just, no gender for you. You know, I will say this about her too. What's awesome about her is, and I think we sometimes forget this, especially in, I see this a lot in mainstream LGBT communities, we forget the importance of coming out, right? And then on top of that, when we come out to our family members, or our friends, or our coworkers, or whomever, they also have to come out as well, right? So my mom, I came out to my mom, no worries, not a problem. And then she started coming out for me to the rest of my family. That meant to my stepfather, to my siblings, to my grandmother, to like all of my 6 aunts on my mother's side alone. And she even came out to her pastor. I have a daughter in New York, and she's transgender. And that picture of her was in the worship group at her church too. She's like, I'm not gonna go do the fan thing. So she came out to everyone in her life, and she took her risk of losing everything that was hers. So, lesson 2, take a risk. And remember the people that have taken risks on you. I want to also talk about something called resilience. I think it's a word that's underused, actually, in our community. We don't recognize that people have suffered through trauma, and heartbreak, and loss, and failure. So, what does that mean? I actually wrote something down here for us. How do we acknowledge our differences and bring the community together? That was a question that was in your conference program, right? Begins in this room. This work can be difficult and hard, but one of the solutions can be right in front of us, or at least right next to us. What I mean is, the people in this room, they are going to get you through the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of your school year, the rest of your life. The people that were on the stage before, Cecilia, and Pauline, and Evan, those were the people that I knew 5 to 10 years ago. And they're still in my life, and they've been able to get me through some of the hardest moments. The people in this room are going to get you through the day. But here's the thing. As you get to know these people, go to conference, go to workshops with them, have lunch with them, hook up with them. I know you're gonna hook up. There is some messiness and discomfort that comes with it. you're gonna discover that you don't agree with everything that the person says or believes in or does. And certainly when I, as being a person that has multiple identities, I come across that all the time. When I was in Korea and I was arguing with these reunification activists about why queer people should be involved. Hello? I want to be in the country at that time. Queer people are going to be involved, and when that happens, I want to know that queer people and trans people will be treated equally. We all have a stake in it. Excuse me. Wow. So that means we're going to disagree with one another, and that's okay. But we have to accept that there's going to be some discomfort along the way. So, here's another one. These are my white parents. The mom and dad, it's very waspy, they look very, they hate this picture too, so. So I use this as an example to talk about resilience, because when I came home after my trip to Korea, there was a lot of conversation that we had amongst us. My parents are very accepting and supportive. They're very happy that I found my family in Korea, but the reality is there were still some bumps in the road. They started to worry that I would leave the States and move to Korea and never talk to them again. They worried that I was spending more time with my family in Korea on Skype than I was calling them and mom. And on the flip side, my mom and my stepdad and the rest of my family in Korea, they were having issues too. Like when they were discovering me and what I was all about. When I talked about reunification, my mom freaked out. She was like, "You love North Korea!" And I was like, no. But I don't think what you hear is right. She's like, "So you love North Korea?" But aside from that bump, there were other bumps too for me, like learning about class. So I grew up in an upper class white household. My mother and the rest of my family, not so much. They don't have a lot, and they make do with what they have. And I learned a lot about class and class privilege. And we had arguments and fights about it too, about gifts. Don't send gifts, let us send you gifts. To things like racism. We would talk about issues of race. And is New York City dangerous? There's lots of black people in New York City. And actually having a real conversation about where does that come from and why. So when I talk about resilience, it's not always easy to work with people, to get to know people, because we're not always going to agree. I don't always agree with them. We actually have fights pretty often about issues of race. And it's ironic because, they have a Korean kid. But they think it's okay. And I think for a lot of adoptees, that's a common experience that we have with our transracial families. White people seem to think it's okay to talk about racist shit in front of me or us, and then think we pass as white people and we'll accept it, or aren't bothered by it. Wrong. So we, as a family, have lots of arguments and fights and conflict, but for us as a family, we know that we will overcome it, or at least that's my hope. Otherwise, I'm worried about the house is going to explode. And then I think the silver lining in the resilience is that sometimes you're surprised with what happens at the end, or down the road. So I went home actually for Christmas Eve service, or Christmas Eve, and then I ended up going to church for the first time since I came out as trans. Whoa. So my family's been involved with this church since I was a babe, and this would be the first time everyone would see me. My father surprised me. He pulled me aside when my mom was getting ready and said, "I just want to let you know that if anyone says anything to you about And he took it like dramatic too. He was like, "I'll defend you to the death." Now my father is 6'4", and when he said that, just like that, I was like, okay. All right. So we went to church, and I was scared, I was nervous, and I ended up being surprised because everyone seemed to be cool. And it turned out that these white people at this church ended up doing a Bible study, like, subgroup thing about trans issues. Who would have thought? And it was because of my parents. So, resilience does pay off. I am right on time. So, know yourself, take risks, and be resilient. Those are 3 things that I wanted to impart to you today in my jibber jabber. So I want to leave you with 2 challenges actually, because that would be inappropriate of me not to. I just said goodbye, enjoy your vegan lunch. I'm gonna eat it. I love vegan food. That sounded horrible, sorry. So I wanted to leave you with 2 things after all of those random thoughts that I had. 1, remember those 3 things I just told you. 2, take time to reflect. In this conference, you only have like a day and a half left, right? A day and a half? Yep, okay. Make a commitment to yourself to use this conference as a wellspring for inspiration and insight. 2, and also I'll say this too, not a lot of people have this opportunity, so use it. So 2 or 3, I want you all to take a risk, and I want you to, and this is what probably every inspirational, motivational person says at a conference, but talk to someone you don't know. Attend a workshop you wouldn't normally attend. Now for me, that would mean not going to the kink workshop. But do something different and out of the box because you don't know what it's going to lead to. And again, use this time wisely, get to know your people, and also recognize the fact that you're not all going to agree. But this is your community, this is your home, and these people are here to support you.